Welcome to the next episode of Chicken and the Fat Lady, where facts are currency and common sense is a commodity. I am the Fat Lady.
I'm chicken. And so oh, we're gonna be talking about dirty words. Very dirty words today.
Filthy, filthy, filthy words.
We gotta do it. I gotta talk about it. We've gotta talk
I
about
wish I wish I could do I wish I could do the accent. I wish I could. I could do so many other accents, but I can't do
gotta
that.
talk about communism,
Yeah, yeah.
socialism. Um yes, those are the dirty words. The ideals of communism, socialism tying into 'cause it's pertinent because we have DSA, Democratic Socialist of America, as like this newer party since 2025. Um,
It is,
it-
but just a minute. It is a newer, I guess it's a newer recognized party, but I feel
yes.
as though the momentum has building for this since Barack Obama.
Oh,
Um,
oh, for sure. Just
yeah,
officially
right,
2025, but
right.
this
I
does
think
have
that,
like
yeah,
roots as like the equal opposite to the Tea Party
right.
in terms of time frame.
But also, I want to just give a caveat here. Um, that was because it wasn't for Barack Obama. It was kind of because of Barack Obama, because
Right.
Barack Obama was he was too pragmatic. He would literally start negotiating where he wanted to end up. And he thought that everybody would play by those rules, and they didn't play by those rules. And he
Right.
too was a corporate Democrat. I love Barack Obama. I think Michelle Obama is one of the most women on this planet who has the most integrity. So, but I just wanna say that I do think it was born of that.
For sure. Yeah.
Mhm.
So we're talking about good old communism and socialism, and this isn't it's just gonna be like a broad layman's overview. Um, you
Yes,
know,
we don't have degree in economy, neither of us. So yeah.
I mean, if I wanted to, I could delve for an afternoon on the entire intricacies. Yeah, and I learned a little bit of this in school, right? But this is also pertinent because people on the right specifically, and even a good amount of uh, corporate or your conservative Democrats are also treating these concepts as nasty things and untowards. I'm thinking of his name, Josh Moravitz. There's a guy, what Oliver Larkin is his name, that's running against him, and Moravitz is like, well, I'm the conservative Democrat, this, that, and the third.
This is for
Eh,
the Boca Raton district in
yeah,
Florida.
yeah, I
Hmm.
can't remember the exact number,
Hmm.
but yes, it's that part of Florida. So it's a lot of including the Democrats of that ilk poo-pooing and kind of shedding a negative light in equality and in hand in hand with Republicans. So just the basic layout. While communism and socialism are two distinctly different ideals from each other, they do kind of share a lot of certain similarities. Where
They do.
the,
Some of the
the
fundamentals of them are the basic fundamentals of them are very similar,
yes,
but the
where
execution of them are is
right.
where the differentiation is. Yes. Uh-huh.
Exactly. And that's where I think people conflate because they focus on what countries and governments who have been socialist or communist have done rather than the actual bare like uh essentials of which the ideas stand upon, right? So they're conflating those things like they're the same when they're not. So we want to talk about how we're hating on Venezuela because it's like, they've got a socialist thing. Well, I was like, well, really, it was just the government wasn't really right, but it wasn't necessarily the socialist part. It was the people within, just like with capitalism, right? Capitalism is the idea basically of like, people will think of it, oh, it's just like the free market or whatnot, and really it's a uh privatized market sort of style corporations where basically, if you're in, you're in, and if you're out, you're
You're
out, and
out.
that's really it. That's the whole thing versus the proletariat and the bourgeoisie and all that stuff, right? While socialism and communism are, they come from root Latin words that basically means as a whole or together. So they're talking about things like, because we always want to talk about, people always want to bring up like the GDP and whatnot as like the measure of how good a country is going. So they want to, so socialism and communism deal with things that are like product production, right? Production and services and things like that, just like any other sort of ideal. But the very specifics of it is like when you're talking about things, and as a capitalist country, we already have, you've heard it before, we already have socialist programs
Absolutely.
within like the core
The
of a bunch of
military is the
things.
socialist program.
The military, this
Public
idea of
schools,
working, yeah, public schools,
police. We've talked
healthcare,
about all this before. Police,
labor
yeah.
unions,
We've talked about all of this. Yeah, yeah.
emergency services, right? The core of these two is your parts working to a whole rather than just working for yourself. And that's like, it's kind of sappy, but it is like, hey, you're part of a community, work towards the community. If we all treat each other right, then we all prosper and we all get along and hold hands and sing kumbaya, it'll work out, is like the most sappy way to say it. But like that's pretty much the basis.
It's funny because you saying that, this goes for me right to the Republicans,
Right.
right? Because that's what they'll say, right? They'll say you don't need government because you need your community to come in and
Hmm.
step in. You need your church to step in. But the problem is we have no community anymore.
Right.
Churches are only in it for self because they're in for self enrichment because every pastor now wants their own private jet.
And they can get it
So
because of
and they
provisions
and they can
that
get
have
it
led
for
them to do it. Yeah.
long held beliefs and how we continue to manipulate poor people by telling them it's okay if you suffer now because when you're dead you're going to have all the riches that you can ever want in heaven, but you don't know that that's true. You don't know what happens after we die. None of us know what happens after we die. You know why? Because we haven't died. Even the
Right.
people who have had near death experiences haven't died, so they too don't truly know either. So it that's the fallacy of that. So, but that's where, it our socialism is convenient, is what
Hmm.
we have right now. And yes, everything, if the stock market is doing well, Main Street is doing well. And again, that's not true. The
Yeah.
stock market is doing very well, and Main Street is suffering and continues to suffer. And we continue to vote against our interests because of nonsense, because of skin color and transgenderism and gay people and, whatever, we want to decide, religion, whatever divisive nature we can use.
Right.
So we can never, we'll never get to that socialism part because of those things.
But the difference here is just like not just being like the thing here is like with with any sort of law, right? Socialism is where, just like with any government, it needs to be government, mandated and ratified and boom, 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 right? We need to have, it sounds scary, but we need to have enforced communities. And I'm not saying like, everyone breaks off in little groups and you go make your little white community. I'm talking about enforced like communities as in like your local, like what Mom Donnie's doing in New York. That's your local level sort of government at work, taking care of the people, making sure that like he says, he wants to have basically more mom and pop grocery stores, right? So it's not just a chain who can just hike up where your eggs or $7-8 for a dozen, right? Who wants to uh, uh, so when you have something that's governmentally
He
mandated,
wants to make, look, he wants to make buses free for everybody to
but yep,
travel the
free
city, for
transportation.
the
Yep.
city, free buses, right? And
Right.
he is looking to alleviate the childcare needs of people in New York City because it's very expensive for daycare. So he has also, if you are in a rent controlled apartment, I do realize not all apartments in New York City are rent controlled, but there are a lot
Right.
that are. And those people now have 2 years where their rent is not going to increase past the cost of living. So that's what you want, right? You want someone to step in and help out for the side of things that you're discussing now. Sorry, I was just
Right.
helping you out with it, some of his
Yeah.
details.
Yeah. You want someone to come in and basically be a block from people trying to take advantage of the system. It's basically enforcing a bunch of laws that we already have, right? Like, hey, everyone knows don't murder someone, right? But we do need to make
Right,
a law because there needs to
right.
be consequences, right?
If
So
you do
that's
do
why
that,
we
right.
can't. That's why we can't just sit here and go, well, we're just going to kumbaya. Like, look, like I said, a couple episodes ago, I make no bones about not necessarily being actually fully politically literate in how the little nitty gritty things go, right? But I do understand that, like, with the systems that people like Mamdani, like Abdus Al Sayed, what's her name? Mara Krios is her name?
Malak Krios. Yes.
Malak Krios.
Kiros. I'm
Kiros.
sorry, Malak
Malak
Kiros.
Kiros.
Yes.
Uh, like Malak Kiros, they want to put in these institutions and rearrange these things. And yes, it's going to cost money. And yes, you want to push out or you want to tax a bunch of the rich and create revenue and this, that, and the third. You want to push out people that are going to be greedy and try to take advantage of the system. And that is going to need to take funding and whatnot. So I know that, like, while making transportation free, you can't just wave your wand. Like, the money's got to come from somewhere. But as I always say,
2% tax increase on the wealthy. A 2% tax increase on the wealthy, which they will make back up within the first quarter of the stock market. So let's stop the fucking nonsense.
I
Let's
mean,
just get
back
real about it.
back in the golden days, back in the what was it, the Reagan era, they were taxed uh, at 90 something percent. Overall, the rich, right? And we had a prospering, booming economy. But I say it all the time: if you take something like stop taking from education, stop taking things like from the unions, healthcare, um, stop taking from there, take from defense. We live in a modern age where a modern military force really is superfluous as like an idea. When someone can click a button and go missile over there, nuclear or otherwise, it really doesn't make sense. So it really doesn't make sense that we're spending $1 trillion+
Yeah. But honestly,
a
with that,
year.
it's even beyond that because now it's a war of information.
Of
That's where our
course,
war is. It's
that's
coming
where the
in
war
now.
effort is. Yes,
It's the war of information now. So that's all being done behind the same screen that you and I are talking through, right? The troops on the ground thing doesn't really need to happen because, as you said, I was in weapons when I was in the military. We have missiles, we have torpedoes, we have whatever it is that we need, and we
right.
have nukes that we can launch at people. So, absolutely, absolutely,
It, it,
100%.
it it's so this whole and it's funny is that this whole second coming of the fifth columnists, the Red Scare are happening within the borders. Back in the day, there was founded, still not a lot, but still founded worry at the Red Scare times of like the Soviets, and there were communist and socialist groups within America that were trying to dismantle wholeheartedly. There was a good
That's what
reason
they're
for it
doing
to
now.
be. There's a
But that's
good
what they're
reason
doing
for
now.
there to be a Red Scare back then, but those things don't mean the same anymore. And people and Gen Z and millennials and a bit of Gen Alpha as they get older, they don't have the same like vitriolic expression or response when they hear the word socialism and communism and Marxism, right? because they've either learned about what it is actually historically in its roots, or they're learning about it through elected officials' actions and words as they describe it, right? And they go, well, that's really good because this capitalism thing means that I'm going to be in the same shithole that I was born into, right? That that people want to brag about. I want to live. I want to be born and grow up, live and die in the same house that I was born. But they're coming at that from affluent means because the poor person's got to do that too. Except maybe they
Well,
have
or
to might
they
move
could,
around a bit,
but
but
yeah, but look, truthfully, that could be coming from with in that scenario, that could be coming from a poor family who's had a home that they've had
right,
for 60 years, and that home is probably in disrepair. And
yeah,
that's what that child is then inheriting when you're
exactly.
on the lower rungs of the ladder. So when you're
And it's
not
not
playing
really
on third
accruing
base,
that wealth that other homes are.
right?
But like that's the thing. The DSA wants to spread like actually
And
like
I'm not
trickle
on
down, but
board
it's
with
not
everything
even.
on the DSA.
Yeah,
I am not on board
look,
with everything on
no
the DSA
one's
agenda.
no one's a
I'm not,
perfect
I don't want to
candidate
get rid
for
of, I don't want to get rid of the Senate. That's not something that I'm even entertaining doing. That's not something that's on my radar anyway.
look, yeah, I mean,
There are things
and
that I'm just
there's
not
things
down
in
with.
there are a bunch of things that are being misrepresented. Like,
Absolutely.
they want to get rid of prisons. Well, and they want to like put all the rapists and murderers. Well, one, if you care about rapists and murderers, there's rapists in chief that you really should be worrying about. But
Right. Right.
you know,
An
uh,
entire cabinet of rapists and
uh,
chiefs. Let's be
exactly.
honest.
You're Nazis and you're
Alleged.
pedophiles, right?
Yeah.
You're Nazis and you're pedophiles. You've elected to office while
Right.
while we looked at Eric Swalwell and Graham Plattner and we were like, nah, get the fuck out of here.
And
So
Eric
we're not the
Swalwell had to
same.
go. Eric
Yeah,
Swalwell had to go. This is oh, that's a whole nother thing. Anyway,
it's a
yeah,
whole nother thing.
more.
But
Yep.
just as an example, they things like they want to get rid of prisons. Like that's a complete grossly like boiled down like misrepresentation of the idea, right? Uh, some people need to be locked up for sure, but prisons were supposed to be rehabilitative facilities and things like that and
Right.
blah 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 from
Right.
its inception. But you're gonna hear a bunch of this fear mongering, like they want to let these rapists and murderers and kidnappers on the street. They want to, yeah, tear down the Senate. I don't really agree with that, either. So you're gonna hear a lot of these
Yeah.
claims, and just go on the DSAUSA.org website and just read through what their statements are. No one's a perfect candidate for anybody.
No.
There's
No.
like 375 million people living in America, and
Right.
a fraction of a decimal point of representatives on the
We
state, like the local, state, and federal level to represent those people. No one's going to be
wait,
perfect for
wait, hold
anybody.
up. I'm just gonna say shout out to the people who are viewing us and commenting on it. We love you all. Thank you so much for supporting us. And we also recognize that even those people don't agree with all of our views.
Of course.
They're going to disagree with us. And these are individuals that are near and dear to my heart. And I appreciate them supporting the channel. So, yes, we're not always going to agree on every facet of our lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think the big thing, I think the core of what DSA wants to do is give everybody the means to be able to disagree and do whatever they want in their lives, as long as it's not hurting anybody else. Like, that's, you leave the
They
door
want
open.
everyone to have an opportunity,
Yeah,
right? James Brown, God love James Brown and your father for making me listen to James Brown all the time. But James Brown, a famous line in one of his songs is open up the door and I'll do it myself. You've
yeah,
got to open up the door for everyone to be able to have that same opportunity. And the thing that socialistic medicine would give us,
right.
it would give the working class and poor people and the middle class, let's be honest, and the upper middle class, because this is not just about the upper, this is about everybody who's not in the 1% now.
It's
This is
about the,
everybody
yeah, I
who's
was gonna
not a
say it's about the
millionaire.
99. It's the
It is
99%.
not about the millionaires anymore. they're doing their own thing. But everybody who I'm going to say, yes, it's a big number, but I'm going to say who's making less than $400,000 a year, this could be you. You can be one medical disaster away from bankruptcy.
Yeah.
This is most people. Most people are living paycheck to paycheck. I have 100 and something thousand dollars in student loan debt. I
Right.
am just like everybody else. And if you took that, now I'm lucky because I have health care. I'm a veteran. And my spouse is a veteran. My husband is a veteran. So we have health care. So we're not that one medical disaster away from something. But I did just get a bill for going to the ER for $8,600. And they had my insurance information,
Right.
right? I'm like,
What
are
am
you
I
kidding
paying you
me?
for? Or
What's
what
it
about it?
for?
What did I put my time in
You
for? Right.
know, did you run this insurance? Like, so that's what people need to understand. People are literally one illness. It's not
Yep.
even, it doesn't even have to be medical. It's one illness. Someone could be sick for 3 days, can't afford to go to a doctor. So you're not getting a doctor's note. So you're getting fired from your job. So what does that do? And again, poor people don't have time to be sick. They're not allowed to be sick.
No.
And so if we create a society where people are having a basic level of income, if they're able to send their kids to school,
Yeah.
to Ivy League type schools to get good education so that they can compete in whatever markets are coming up in the future, because we have no idea what's going to happen with AI, right? Because eventually it's going to collapse and we're going to have to rebuild and start from nothing. And we're trying to now not educate our children as it is.
Right.
So, I don't think that's a bad thing. Why is that a bad thing? Why is it a bad thing for me, Ma, to be able to go and get some new dentures? Or for her to be able to get a set of eyeglasses, for crying out loud? Because in most healthcare, you don't get glasses and you don't get dental.
Right.
That's separate stuff. This is
Which doesn't.
nickel and diming
Yeah.
people who are already poor to death. Oh, and then, we're going to add a processing fee onto all of that as well. So you're going
Yeah.
to
You're
next
getting
we're going to start
nickel and
processing,
dimed
right?
everywhere.
It's only eventually we'll have some, like, they'll have us implemented with some kind of breathing apparatus so they can say, "Oh, well, you took 1 million breaths today, so we're going to charge you for that, and your
You didn't
CO2 into
pay
the
your
atmosphere,
oxygen
right? You
subscription.
exactly. We're going
So
to cut you
fucking
off,
figure it out.
right?" So these are the things that we should all want. We should all want education, but the problem is that we allow race to come into it. That's where the problem is. Because if this was all just for whites, it would be fine. But this is how we allow race and class to rule things. Because everybody's in an uproar over losing their food stamps, but it was all a bunch of white people that was losing their food stamps. It wasn't black people that was losing their food
Losing their
stamps.
food stamps, losing their ACA, their Affordable Care Act
Yeah,
being repealed, which is the real name
of the Obamacare,
of Obamacare.
right?
And so, but so you want, yes, you want the education, right? You want less private schools and more public schools and have funding for, like I said, you take out of defense, right? You fund all of education easily. You fund education for like, 0.01% of what we spend on the military, right? You could just do that in the whole country could be
$38
funded.
billion, $38
Yeah.
billion dollars. We could educate all of the Americans. We're already over $1 billion, right? In
Yep.
war.
20 billion to end hunger in
Right,
America. 20 billion.
right.
And we know that because Elon asked years ago, how
Yep,
much would it take to end hunger?
yep,
And
yep.
someone gave him the money.
Number, he gave them
Where's
the amount. They gave him
the
the
number,
amount, not the money.
excuse me, not the
Yeah, yeah,
money.
yeah.
He gave me the money amount. That's what I
Yeah.
meant to say.
Right.
He's not going to give up any money.
No, exactly. Because he could have given up that money and made that money back already, by the way. But anyway,
Back well long before, right?
yeah.
I think it's another 45 billion for homelessness, right? Taking care of
Yep.
the homeless people,
Yep.
government issued housing.
Yep.
And that's the thing too, right? Because everybody's like, well, because the median age for your first home now is 10 years older than it was I believe 50 years ago. You know, it went from about your late 20s to now it's your late
Almost
30s,
40.
early
Yeah.
40s, right? On like owning your own home, not doing like what I'm doing. I'm shacking up with another couple. My
Right.
couple, me and my girlfriend are shacking up with another couple, right?
Right.
And it's working out beautifully. But actually owning your own home, I mean, is yeah, you're 39 to 41 as your first home, right? Not even like, and it's not even like a tiny house, right? It's a
Oh,
proper
right.
luxury home,
Right.
right? That
Right.
you would own.
Right.
So, so yes, that'll help a bunch of people who, you know, who you hear this and it's like you really want a home, join with the, you know, with the ideals or like what the spirit of, like we said, not everything's gonna click every box, but join with the spirit of what DSA is trying to do, and then you get into the nitty gritty of like the different levels, this, that, and the third. Look, it's not going to be easy, but like
Look,
government
and there
has
are
never
there are
been easy.
positions of theirs that you're going to support, and there are positions that you aren't. And
Right.
when you don't support what they're doing, you're going to call them and say, "Hey, I'm not supporting this." You're going to write letters. You're going to say, "This is not what we're about. We're
You're
not
going to vote.
about this." You know, we need to have prison facilities, but the entire law enforcement establishment in the United States needs to be overhauled. It's
Right.
the like I saw somebody the other day. They didn't say it was the whole damn bunch. They said it was the whole damn orchard. The whole damn orchard is bad. And we need to rip up those trees and replant those roots.
Yeah.
There is a
Defund
different
the
way
police.
of doing this, fund our schools. And our schools would be funded again if lottery money actually went to the schools and
Right.
it wasn't funneled to other things, other places. Every poor kid would be educated as well as the rich kids. And truthfully, if we just took that entire coffer and put all of that into a fund that went to all of the school districts,
Yeah.
and that way the rich people could see, holy shit, we are doing a disservice to the poor children of this nation. And guess what? They don't all have black and brown skin. There's a whole
Right.
lot of whites. I grew up with a whole lot of poor white people, a whole lot of poor white people. I'm a poor white person. Are you kidding me? Like, this fallacy, and it's something that's just, it's over our heads. You know what I mean? It's held over our heads that no matter what we do in life, it's going to be all right. We're going to be all right, and everything's going to be good. And that's just not the case. It's not what happens. We all get shit on. And once we start to look in the mirror and realize that, we could come together and realize that we have more power than the people that are sitting at the top of our current food chain. And we
Right.
can vote them all out, but we can also do things besides voting them out. We can stop spending our money at their businesses. Figure out a way to do other things, and it is
Right.
difficult because they literally own everything.
I was going to say, I was like, that
They
only goes so
own
far. Like,
everything.
unless you're a singular entity, you know, like, yeah, we did make Tesla's stocks and whatnot hit a dip when everyone was burning or giving away their Teslas and that stuff. But Elon still has money.
He
So, I
became a
mean,
trillionaire after
yeah,
that, so it doesn't matter.
it really,
And
yeah, it's really
and you
hard.
know who
When,
doesn't see, this is the problem though, son. The thing is that the people that need to care don't give a shit because they're on
yeah,
the board and they're
yes,
making money. And that's
yeah,
all that matters to them, is that they're getting more and more and more. And it doesn't matter what we're doing to the rest of the country because they're actually dismantling our nation and selling it off.
right.
And yeah,
So, but we touched on it earlier because I called you in a pissed rage last night.
yes, you did.
I was so fucking pissed
Yes, you did.
because I was watching the Majority Report, and they were talking about healthcare. Healthcare is the big two things, really. I mean, everything's all connected, but like the big two things of like that everyone is wanting. They want affordable housing and healthcare, like the big, like obviously you want to afford your groceries and make more money and blah 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 blah. But like that's the big two
Well, if
things.
housing
You
is
want to be
cheaper, they
able,
could afford
yeah,
their groceries. Yeah. Hmm.
exactly. You
Hmm.
want a place to live and You want to be able to be healthy and alive and live in the place that you live, right? So they were talking about healthcare, and I agree with them, for a bunch, but of things. But there was something that said on there that like just made me upset because it was something was said along the lines that implied that like, look, we just need to get the right people in, and so that the people that they represent can just be like given the healthcare and this, that, and the third, and not really, because it's not the citizens' fault in a way of not knowing what's going on, right? And I go, I don't agree with that. You need to put more onus on people. People are stupid, right? Just like plain out and out, people as a collective are stupid, you know. Um, there needs to be more onus, and you need to do this with your friends, your family, acquaintances, random strangers on the street, as a person, because they were bringing up the whole adage about vaccines. I swear to God, if I have to hear about another anti-vaxxer, right? They're not anti-vax. Majority point isn't anti-vax,
Yeah, no,
but
they're
just
talking about people
they
who
were
are. Yeah.
talking about it, right? Yeah, they were just talking about it, and the anti-vaxxers are are just stupid, right? While you can have someone like RFK who has identified a real problem. What are they putting in these vaccines? Like, what does it break down to? What is in our food? This, that, and the third. While you can I have these people who identify that there's a real question. There's a real question at the center of it, but you are choosing to not engage with it, um, but without any like proof or merit or
Well,
anything,
in a
right? You're
scientific
just
manner,
citing,
in a
right?
scientific manner.
You've asked the question and have already, while you're asking the question, decided to abstain rather than
Well, I don't think it's
continue to do
abstain.
the thing.
I
They're
think
they're
it's
abstaining.
I think they're filling in the answer. I think they're going into it and saying that there's a problem and then they've already decided the outcome.
That's
So
what I'm
that's why
saying.
I'm saying I
You've
don't think they're
you've abstained
abstaining.
from the discussion. You've
Oh,
abstained from
okay.
the
I got you. Oh, I
scientific.
got you. All
Yeah,
right. I
yeah.
misunderstood. Okay.
You're
That's fine.
yes,
Right.
you've
All
made your
right.
decision. Not yeah, but you've
Yeah.
abstained from the discussion because you've already gone in and asked the question. Like, I don't know what's in the food, but I'm not going to talk about it, or I'm going to come with my presuppositions about this, that, and the third. Look, if you have, a socialized economy and had the healthcare to back it up, you would not have these 11,000 cases of measles back when measles was basically eradicated.
It was.
You wouldn't have the explosive diarrhea disease and E. coli on the rise because uh, you wouldn't have had Trump, who dismantled the division of the CDC, who was tracking these things years ago and was there to be like, hey, this thing's getting a little out of control. Let's keep an eye on that. Or hey, this has actually gone down. Still keep it on the radar, but I think we're getting close. I mean, they're even talking about polio coming back. You know, um, if you wouldn't have all these things, and so you wouldn't have these people dying if if you just vaxxed your kids and vaxxed yourself. I can't tell you how many of the people that I know who were skeptical of the COVID vaccine at the place that that I used to be at.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, and you know, I hear them talk about wanting to have children and whatnot, and uh, or I hear abouts that they're thinking about having kids, and luckily, they weren't around me when they said it because I'm in a different state. But I would have just been like, you're gonna get them vaxxed, right? Right? Or I mean, am I gonna have to start a baby coffin business?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what the conversation needs to be about, because while it's not 100% certainty that your child will contract the thing that's killing everybody or that they will die, from the thing that's killing everybody, or they'll be the carrier of the thing that's killing everybody. But it's the percentage is growing, right? And it is not out of pocket for me or anyone to go to your friend and be like, "You've got two choices. Your kids, I mean, I've got two choices. You're either going to vaccinate, which would be great for me, right? Or, like I said, I'm just going to open up a baby coffin business because
Well,
that's
this is
really what
my
is going to
thing.
start to
Do
happen.
you really want to be that parent that decided not to vaccinate your child for measles and then your child die from measles when you could have just vaccinated? Because
It's yeah,
measles and polio, I mean, the MMR vaccines are like the safest vaccines out there.
yeah,
They've been around for over 100 years now, right? People were clamoring to be able to inoculate their children from polio
right.
because it had ravaged our
There
nation.
were old pictures of people in long ass lines, Tiny Tim looking people with like their crutch and
Mitch
their fucking
McConnell.
in right. Mitch
Mitch
McConnell,
McConnell has
who's
polio. He's a
dead,
polio
who's dead,
survivor.
he's dead, he's dead.
He might be in here, but he's still working here. But I
He's
do think that the brain, I do think that the brain is gone. I do. I think he has that. If those pictures are even remotely close to anything, the far off look in his eye does appear to be someone who is,
Oh, I'm just
yeah,
saying that as like he's ostensibly dead. Whether he's
yeah,
medically dead, that's not for me to
right,
call. I'm just saying
right,
ostensibly
yeah,
he is a dead person.
right for
He
you.
is he in my mind, he's the equivalent of Lindsey
Yeah,
Graham,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Um, but like yeah, do you not care about anyone in your life? Because I took both sets of the COVID vaccine and the booster, right? Because what? I was around you two, medically predisposed to have issues. I was around my homeboy in Florida, who is also medically like susceptible to stuff, and my girlfriend has a lot of health issues, right? And I care about all of those people, so that's why I did it. Even though my medical history of being sick and whatnot, it's very few and far between,
Oh,
and I'm
absolutely,
usually fine, right? Never really had
absolutely,
to go to the doctor for a bunch of stuff, but it's not about me. And that's the big
right.
thing. That's the big thing about all this
Right. And
is
and truthfully,
is
your father got that vaccine for me
yeah,
because I had type A blood, which was shown to be more detrimental to people who had type A blood.
right.
So he would have gotten it anyway because he's a good dude and does vaccines anyway. But
Yes.
that was primarily for my health. Absolutely. Yep.
But the way that this all ties down, right, to socialism, communism, right? Their thoughts of community and taking care of each other and being that safety net and this healthcare and things like that. It's like you you've got to care about the other people.
Yep.
You've so look up dsausa.org where website, take a look,
No, we're
you
not
know.
being paid.
And just if you care
I
about
wish.
anyone in your life, just give them a look, understand what you can do, and we will catch you in the next episode.
Peace.